Hey there, everyone. Well, this is the classic recast for this month. I think this is actually the first recast episode that we've posted from season 2, when my co-host was the legendary podfather, our buddy Evo Terra. Now, this episode, which aired almost exactly 10 years ago, believe it or not, is a really fun interview with a very good friend of mine named Alan Platt, who wrote what I think is one of the funniest and most entertaining travel books I've read, the title of which is Foreign Fool. Now, it's a great read full of strange and sexy and bizarre tales pulled from Alan's life as a rock journalist, a nightclub owner, an advertising executive, and all-around bon vivant. Now, the reason I wanted to post this one is because Alan and I have been hanging out quite a bit of late, where we try to one-up each other with filthy jokes and crazy stories and usually end up crying with laughter. I got to thinking how lucky we are to live in a city that attracts the weirdos, the storytellers, and those who enjoy living on the edge, and we really should cherish these friendships and squeeze as many memories out of them as we can. So anyway, here is my conversation with Alan Platt, which also includes the theme music we used in season 2, something very different from what we use for the rest of the seasons. So a little bit something different for your ear holes. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. This is episode 9. I'm Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian expat who came to Thailand on vacation in 2001 and never left.
And I am Evo Terra, an American expat living in Bangkok since the beginning of 2016 who finally got his microphone working once again.
Whew.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and welcome once again to the Big Mango.
I want to apologize right off the bat first. I listened to last week's episode and I could hear my kids screaming in the background at some little points. I edited out as much as I could, but you can't edit out all of it. So apologies in advance if you hear the kids screaming in the background. But
sure.
He's going to bed later and later these days.
Sure, that was your kid screaming in the background. You want us to believe that, but really, we're wondering.
It was my tied up Japanese anime character that I keep on a computer. Speaking of my kid, I am tired. I am frazzled. I'm running around because it is his second birthday this weekend, and I got to get cupcakes and decorations and flags and balloons and who knows what else. And we're having a bunch of people over here on the weekend, plus their kids. So I'm stocking up on Tylenol.
Yeah,
and getting ready.
Second birthday parties are the important ones because the first birthday party, all of the things that you thought you needed to do that then you realize you didn't need to do, there's little chance the kid is going to remember them whatsoever. But the second birthday party, you have the sophomore effect going in place, right? You've got to beat that one, which you were already disappointed in. The kid's still not going to remember is the good news, so it'll still be a great time.
Right. We didn't hold a party last year. We bought him a little cupcake with a candle on it, and he was confused and scared and like, what's going on? But this year we're having a few friends over, and he still won't remember it. You're right. So we're not going to put a hell of a lot of effort into it.
How many kids are coming?
Not a lot, like 4 or 5. But there's probably going to be about 12 adults here. So.
Oh yeah, and hopefully they'll all be drinking, and that will make things a little bit easier.
Oh, awesome! I can't wait to clean up the place after that ends.
Hey, you were telling me about the stupid bike ride that you went on. What were you thinking, man?
Oh, I was thinking it would be fun, and it was fun. It was great. It was just this one was a little bit more than I can handle. If you've listened to the podcast, the previous version of the podcast, season 1 of the podcast, listeners, you might have remember me talking about my bike rides, and I do love riding bikes in Bangkok. And now, before I had a kid, I used to get out every other weekend on these long rides with buddies, and we'd go for 70, 80, 90, 100 kilometers sometimes, and that's the most I've ever done, and I was very, very tired. But since I've had a kid, my biking activity has dropped way off, as has my stamina. So I'm comfortable with about 60 kilometers now. But last weekend I went on a route with a friend, and it was 75 kilometers. Cool. And I was wiped out. At the end of the ride, I was way at the back and just drinking copious amounts of water, sweating like a pig. And it was great. It was a great feeling of accomplishment, but I pushed myself a little too hard, I think.
Yeah, that all sounds great. That's definitely the word I would be using to describe that terrible experience. The only good news, saving grace, is it's actually getting cooler now. We are in the throes of winter here in Bangkok, so it should be nicer if you decide, or when you decide to do that again, perhaps the following weekend.
Yeah, the weather's quite nice now, and you're right. It's amazing how much an extra 2 or 3 degrees can really affect your body when you're outside doing physical activity. I did a ride from my UT out of Bangkok a few years ago, and this was 80 kilometers or something like that. And it was in August or something. So it was 36, 38 degrees. And I nearly got full on heat stroke.
Oh, sure.
And I got to the very north part of Bangkok and just said, I'm done. I'm out. And I had a huge headache, and I took the tires off my bike, and I flagged a taxi down, and I stuffed my bike in, and I jumped in the seat. Got home and realized I left my front tire on the side of the road up in the boonies of northern Bangkok. And I was just like, oh, the hell with it. I'll get a new tire. Turns out it's really difficult to get a single mountain bike tire. It took me like 6 months, and I had to pay 6,000 baht for this stupid thing. Anyway, moral of the story is when you're going to be outside doing physical exercise, take note of the temperature, because for every 1 degree it's hotter, that can have a real detrimental effect on a regular, not so in shape dude or woman.
And when planning for physical activities in Bangkok, remember that it is Bangkok. And even when it's cool outside, it's hotter than you think.
Yeah, cool Bangkok is like record-breaking heat in Canada. So Bangkok is a city that is full of characters, some fascinating, some tragic, some terrifying, but it's always interesting getting to know them. And one of these characters is our guest for tonight, Mr. Alan Platt. Now, I got to know Alan in the course of my job, and I have to say he is one of Bangkok's most interesting, well-traveled, and riotously entertaining longtime expats. He's just released a book called Foreign Fool, and I've read it, and I'm not just saying this because he's a friend, but it is a really great, funny, entertaining read about his misadventures all over the world. So, Alan, welcome to the Bangkok Podcast.
Thank you, and I'll try not to be either tragic or terrifying.
Well, yeah, a little bit of both doesn't hurt, but don't push it too far,
All right.
So you just came out with this book, and before we get to talking about the book, I want to get into a little bit about who you are and why you're here. I mean, you are British, is that right? But you have American citizenship?
Yeah, no, I'm not. And I'm not an American citizen, but particularly now that Trump's the president, I would deny that anyway now. But no, I am English, but I've lived most of my adult life in New York. I lived in New York for 35 years, and before that I lived 3 years in Hollywood, so I'm I wouldn't say I'm an American because I'm a New Yorker, and New Yorkers aren't really American.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a New Yorker, and he says much the same thing.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in New York from a quiet, bucolic life in the UK?
I'm not quite sure how. I went just for a quick visit because I always wanted to go, and I wound up in Hollywood. I arrived with very little money. This is a long time ago in '74. I was still young, and I wasn't long out of university. I had no money. I hitchhiked across America, across Route 66, believe it or not, when there still was a Route 66.
Nice.
And I wound up in Los Angeles on the beach on my birthday in the middle of November, I just had a birthday, sunbathing. And I thought to myself, I'm not going home. So basically I left because of the weather.
Right. Well, you left because of the weather, and then you stayed because of the different weather.
Right. I stayed because all kinds of great things happened, and I had a lot of fun. And
the 70s in LA must have been crazy.
It was insane, yeah. I mean, London in the 60s, New York in the 70s, LA in the 70s, New York in the 80s. I didn't stand a chance of being straight.
I bet a lot of people didn't. Hey?
Right.
So then you got into advertising.
Well, first of all, I got into journalism, almost by accident. Whenever I didn't really do a hell of a lot in LA, except have a lot of fun. But when I got to New York, a few things happened, and I wound up being for want of a better phrase, the rock critic of a downtown newspaper there called the Soho Weekly News. And I did that for a year and a half, something like that, every week. So I had a byline. So I met, and it was just at the time when The Clash and all those people were coming over, and the Police and all those big bands. And so I had access to all of them. And it was a great, interesting time to write. So I did that. And then because of that, I got into working for the CBS record company, writing for them. And I got into writing sort of advertising for them. And then I got into real advertising. And then suddenly, from being a journalist, I was a copywriter, then I was a creative director, and so on and so forth. So I spent the next long time in advertising.
And you worked for some pretty named companies, right?
Oh, all the big companies. Yeah, I was very successful. I won I won all the international awards, showing off, but I did. And so I was kind of a bit of a big shot for a while up there.
Were you always like seeking out adventure? Because reading this book, it's like every chapter is like an exotic location with interesting people doing amazing things. Like,
well, yes and no. I mean, I think I came from a whole generation. I mean, people who came of age in the '60s. We all just sort of went everywhere. We wanted to go places, and we were the first people who went like with nothing. We went with no money, and we went to all kinds of weird places. But most of the stories in this book are during the time when I was probably in the advertising business and traveling on business or traveling in between business. And because, at the high end of advertising, you travel around the world a lot. And
right.
And I traveled around, so I did a lot of that. And it's also, this book is spread over a very long period of time. I mean, this is almost a lifetime of traveling.
How did you get the idea for the book? Like, was it just one day you were thinking about all your crazy?
Well, no, I mean, the idea, anybody listening to this podcast, I should explain that the book is all about fucking up, or screwing up, rather, excuse me, and having like everything going wrong.
That's one thing that I thought was really interesting about the book. And you say, I think in the intro, about how you crave the attention of being the clown.
Well, not quite. I don't think I quite put it like that, but
you say it much more eloquently than that.
But no, I don't even mean that. I don't crave being the clown, but I've always enjoyed. It might be part of the English kind of self-deprecating thing, and I think English people do this a lot. But we often, when we tell stories, make ourselves the butt of the joke. Like, you'll never believe what a stupid thing I just did. It's a very English thing, and have people roaring with laughter at how stupid you were. Like, how could I have been so dumb? And and guess what? Then I did, and well, everybody's all over the place laughing. So it's a kind of an English thing, I think, that you'll make yourself the butt of the joke. And I started writing stories about, amusing things happening. It didn't start out as a book. I thought I would just write a few stories about funny things that happened. A funny thing happened on my way around the world kind of thing,
Right.
hoping to sell them to magazines and things like that. And I never really liked any of these stories because it almost felt like I was showing off. Like, I was here in this wonderful place and you weren't. And I did this really interesting thing and you didn't. And I just didn't like the sound of it or the feel of it. And I hate most travel writing anyway. But it suddenly hit me one day that if I just wrote about when things screwed up, when things went wrong, and I made myself like the butt of the joke, and I only wrote about stories where I came off pretty badly, or I wound up with a pratfall, suddenly it became much easier to write it, and that's how it started. And I only wrote stories where I ended up being a bit of a fool or things went wrong. So that's how it wound up. It's kind of finding a voice and not coming off as a jerk.
No, you certainly don't come off as a jerk in this. You just sort of come off as like you're being carried along on this river of the situations that you're in or the countries that you're in.
Right, doofusness, I think, is what it is. International doofus.
There was a couple of stories in the book where I had to come over to you and I was like, that story about this, did that really happen? Because some of them are literally laugh out loud, like, oh my God, like the one where you were in Vietnam and you were getting chased through the street by a car full of gangsters after escaping from their car.
Yeah, I got kidnapped because I was drunk and I was stoned and I had literally just landed. This was quite a bit after the Vietnam War, and it was a pretty Wild West place, Saigon, in those days. And you're warned. There's something called a cyclo, the three-wheel bicycle thing, that they ride around on. It's kind of like a tuk-tuk, but it's a bicycle, like a rickshaw. Don't take one of these after dark. And I was just drunk and stoned enough to say, oh, screw that, I'm taking one. And I wound up in a terrible situation. It was just being stupid,
I remember the name of that chapter was Number One Bad.
Yeah, because I wound up in Chinatown, in Saigon, Chinatown, and my cab driver said, why you go there? You stupid? That's Chinatown, number one bad. Oh, really? Chinatown? Oh, is that where it was? Oh, well, I knew that, of course,
Someone as well-traveled as
yeah,
myself.
I mean, I knew. I was just there visiting friends. No, you're stupid. You got robbed.
Another one that I read was I really enjoyed reading was the chapter when you were, I forget what country it was, but you were in the sand dunes.
Oh, in Morocco.
Morocco, and you ended up naked in a sandstorm hiding under a car.
Not trying to dig a car out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I got that was another thing. Just being loaded basically, and not giving. Being careless and stupid and thinking, oh, I can do this. And I was all alone. I didn't have a map. I didn't have any water or anything. And I left the road, which is the stupidest thing to do, and drove my little car into the desert. Of course, I got stuck. And the sandstorm was approaching, and I had to dig my car out. And, that was that one.
I really appreciated that chapter, too, because it was really beautifully written. And it's a story about how you end up at the white sand dunes or the
white dunes, yeah.
The white dunes, and it's just it painted a very vivid picture. And I've never been to the Middle East or any desert for that matter, except Canadian prairies, which is as dry and as abandoned as the desert in Morocco.
Right.
But
picture if you will. It's kind of like Winnipeg, but more sandy.
Less wheat.
Yeah, a little less wheat.
Camels.
Yeah, little or no wheat.
But it was a beautifully written chapter, and a lot of the book is actually really. I mean, you go to the bookstore, you go to Asia Books or Kinokuni or something like that, and you see the shelves lined with local travel writing, and usually it's these cheesy, terrible books that I just avoid like the plague, like Hard Boiled Detective, or I found myself on this girl I brought home from the bar with a knife and holding me up, and just like these terrible pratfalls of idiots doing stupid things. But your book raises above that, and you said, although a lot of the chapters were the result of you doing stupid things, the book is very well written, and it just seems much more polished and a much nicer package than the sort of dregs that you find on the dust-covered shelves of Asia Books.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that, but I actually have to agree. It's nicely written. But the thing is, you have to remember, I was a writer already. And a lot of those things that you read, and I didn't want to be lumped in, it's like expats who are living in exotic places, like Bangkok and places like that. And they write these sort of tell-all shocking books about, how exciting and how naughty and how bad it all is. And they're all terrible because they can't write. But these stories there's always something in these stories, usually some passage in these stories where I really try to write really well, in some lyrical passage or something like that. And the thing is that after being in this terrible kind of almost Three Stooges kind of disaster in the desert, I wound up after the horror, I wound up at this beautiful, incredible place called the White Dunes in the middle of the night under the stars with this guy that I had just met. And it was unbelievably beautiful. And so suddenly, from being like slapstick, it suddenly turned into a really lyrical, beautiful, long description of how utterly beautiful the desert can be at night.
Yeah, and that really came across in the chapter too. It was a pleasure to read that one. I was talking to a friend about this podcast, our buddy Chris, and I said, hey, we're going to interview Alan tonight. And he said, oh, and he goes, ask him this question. And he said, Alan, how is it that these adventures, which would leave most men in tatters, just leave you wanting more? Don't you get tired?
Oh, no. The thing is that what you have to remember is not that particular story. Well, you've mentioned two stories. One in Saigon, where I was really endangered and kind of had to fight my way out of a very difficult situation with some, jailbirds, some real, kidnapping Shanghai artists, we used to call them in America.
Bad hombres.
Bad hombres. And in Morocco, I was in a very perilous situation. I could have died easily. But most of these stories, when you look at them, although they're very funny and they're full of incident, really not a lot happened. It's just the way I wrote them, and a lot of them are just very embarrassing situations. And I really try to milk those. So it's not the perils of Pauline kind of thing. Most of them are just theater of embarrassment, like being in Tokyo. One of my favorite stories is being in Tokyo and being extremely constipated and having to explain that I hadn't been to the bathroom for 2 weeks practically to a bunch of women who didn't speak any English. And
Right, you're pantomiming.
Yeah, it was all about the whole pantomime and having to do this again at the doctor's office and everybody falling about. And so it was very funny. And so a lot of the book is like that. It's just embarrassing incidents where not a hell of a lot happens, but it's very entertaining and very funny. And interspersed are a few like real, genuine adventures that were kind of slightly perilous.
Yeah, well, I don't know what I would do if I ended up in the middle of Morocco naked. Probably be mistaken for a camel, actually. Someone would throw a saddle on me and start kicking my ass. So are the stories in here, like, are there any more? Or are these just the ones you chose?
Are there going to be more? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely another book, you know. Yeah, I chose these because I just wanted the ones that I found the funniest, and I wanted this book to basically be a funny book, but as much as possible to be very well written and to have a lot of passages of very beautiful description and so forth, because I was in some very nice places, and you know, so this book is written strictly for laughs. It's strictly to amuse. And I think maybe that's the English thing again. You can write about being in a really dangerous, terrible situation in all kinds of ways, but I just choose to write about them in a funny way, you know. Yeah. Like you can be extremely boring, you know. Like one of my favorite stories is about, not my stories, but an apocryphal story that Tallulah Bankhead, the famous silent era actress, is supposed to have said when some guy was boring everybody at the table about, you know, there I was suddenly looking into the jaws of death, you know, blah blah, and suddenly, you know. And she turned to him and said, "And did you die?" So yeah, you can be a very boring storyteller. And
well, you're not boring in this book, and like I said, it really is a great read. I really did enjoy it, and a few friends who have read it have said the same thing. So, listeners of the Bangkok Podcast, if you are looking for something to read, head out and get the book. It's called Foreign Fool, and you can go to foreignfool.com. And from there, you can find a link to buy it on Amazon. It's available in paperback or on Kindle. And you can also just go to Amazon and search for it there. Alan Platt, and the book is Foreign Fool. Thanks for writing it, man. I really did like it, and I look forward to reading more of your adventures. Are you going to start working on the next one right away, or are you going to take a break?
Yeah, I kind of, you know, I'm always scribbling away, you know, a little bit here and there. Anyway, thanks for your complimentary... for enjoying it. Thank you for enjoying it, and thanks for buying it.
Hey, no problem. I gonna buy a couple of copies for friends, get you to autograph them, and hand them out at birthday parties.
They could be worth like a few cents more than the
yeah, well, when my kid is old enough, I'll start reading him some bedtime stories and terrify him.
Right.
He'll want to stay in the house for his whole life. Well, thanks, Alan, and I look forward to more writing in the future.
Okay, and thanks very much. I'm a big fan of your podcast, so keep on the good work.
And it's time once again for everyone's favorite segment on the Bangkok Podcast, Love, Loathe, or Leave.
Yay! All right.
It's the time where we come up with one little quirky, interesting, or terrifying thing about Bangkok and see how the other one feels about it. We don't know these in advance, just like you don't know them in advance, so we see what's going on. My love, loathe, or leave question for you, Greg, is what I refer to as the Bangkok Shuffle.
All right.
The Bangkok Shuffle, for those of you that do not live in this town, it's the seemingly inability of people who are from Thailand or have been here for a long period of time to recognize that there are other humans that interact with them in the city of 12 million people and either walk directly in front of you or at an extremely low speed or will just kind of cruise along, stop, check their cell phone, just not paying attention. I refer to that lovingly as the Bangkok Shuffle. Do you loathe it, or is it so terrible for you you're going to leave the country?
Well, it's something that has only come up in the past, 6 or so years, 5 years or so?
Oh.
Back when everyone had the old Nokia phones, you know, like no one walked along checking their phone. What are you going to do, play Snake?
Oh, right.
You know, so it only has really been a thing in the past 5 years. The original iPhone came out in, 2007, 2008, something like that. I loathe it. because I'm a fast walker, and I'm finding that it's, I'm never walking in a straight line. I'm zigging and zagging and dodging people. Luckily for me, I'm a big dude, and I walk fast, and I look scary. I have a bitchy resting face.
Right.
So when I have a neutral expression on my face, I look scary, and I sort of take. So maybe it's an asshole thing to do, but I take a little bit of pleasure of when I am walking in a straight line and someone almost walks into me, and then the look of sort of startled horror on their face as I stop and look up and see my chest, and then look up and see me standing there looking at them. And I just want to say, get off your damn phone. Like, Bangkok is not a city where you want to get distracted walking it.
No.
So I loathe it. It hasn't been so bad that it makes me to leave because I can deal with it. But it's not something I enjoy.
Yeah, for you, I would imagine, because you are literally twice the man most Thai people are. So they would just bounce off of you if, in fact, they ran into you. For me, it is something I definitely loathe. And when I finally do leave the country, it will likely be one of the reasons I cite that caused me to make it, because it really gets to me. And people I've talked to about it say, well, come on, in New York it's the same way. And I'm telling them, no, it is not the same way. There is something about here that is different than anywhere else I've been to. And definitely loathe, pushing me towards leaving, but not quite yet.
I think what it is that in New York, if you said to someone, hey, get out of my way, they'd be like, hey, go, take off, get out of here. They're cognizant of the fact that, they're blocking the sidewalk. You got a problem with that? Here, it's sort of like complete obliviousness. Like, hey, you're blocking my way. Oh, I had no idea. Like, I would never have guessed that stopping in the middle of a crowded sidewalk at Siam Square might cause people to be held up, So it's a bit maddening.
What do you have for me?
My love, loathe, or leave it is this. I call it the mallification of Bangkok. Bangkok is sort of trying to play catch up with Singapore, and they are building shopping malls everywhere, all over the place. Big ones, bigger ones, giant ones, huge ones. The world's biggest one in Southeast Asia. They're demolishing old buildings. They are getting rid of heritage places and parks and stuff like that. And I always joke about it every time you see a construction site. Oh, maybe they're going to put up a museum or a park. No, it's a condo or a mall. Mm-hmm. And some people say this is really ruining the charm of Bangkok, the character of Bangkok. I'm a little bit torn about it because malls are a legitimate outlet for an outing in Bangkok. They're air conditioned, they're safe, they have entertainment and food and all these things. You can't really go for a walk in Bangkok and be comfortable. So they offer a legitimate outlet for the citizens of the city. But at the same time, Jesus, guys, calm down. What do you think? Is it something that's just robbing the city of its charm for you, or is it something that you can deal with, or are you just have enough and Bangkok is just this hollow shell of retail stores as far as the eye can see?
Well, and I've gone back and forth on my position of this because I've been through the lifelong living in capitalist societies and seeing how things are going, and I think I'm coming down on the side of I actually kind of love it because it shows progress, it shows moving forward, and it's also not happening everywhere. It can't happen everywhere. I mean, and yes, I do question exactly why it is that Bangkok needs 8 malls within a 2-block area, how they stay open. And then, of course, I walk into some of the malls and I realize they're not. They're like 30% occupancy in many of those. And the same thing for the condos. It's 40% occupancy condo. But to me, it's a sign of progress. I try to have a progressive outlook on most things and recognize that while there are certain aspects of the past that should be preserved and remembered, it's forward always and always forward. So I'm actually leaning to the side of loving that aspect.
Loving, hey? We should have a 4th category called love, loathe, leave, or meh.
How do you spell meh with an L?
It's Canadian. Would I say I love it? I don't think I love it. I think I like it. I'm on the same page as you. I think the malls here are great, and this is something that I noticed when I went back to Canada on a recent trip. The malls in Canada are terrible.
Right.
They're brutal, dark, dingy places full of crazy, weird people. Just mall, like food courts, nail salons, and discount stores, and it's just depressing. But Bangkok, the malls are fun,
Yeah.
you know? But I mean, God, like, is there anything else? Like, what about a really nice museum downtown, or I don't know, like some art, some streetwide art or something like that? Like, look at Singapore; they've got all these huge city structures, those giant trees and things like that. And I'm not saying that we need to have those sticking out of the middle of downtown, but some variety.
Well, maybe that'll come, right? I mean, as the mall, as we hit that limitation, we still have the city, the government who wants things to move forward. I mean, let's not forget 15 years away from Bangkok 250 is hitting, and so maybe this is just first wave. Bring in the commerce to the area first, and then we'll worry about the other spots, and let's beautify it later with some art installations, with some public parks, and who knows? Maybe we just should be optimistic about that and just relish in the fact that we have a place we can get good food, not terribly expensive because they all have a little food court inside of them, and escape the oppressive 38C weather.
Yeah. All right, I'll settle on the side of love with caveats, which describes most of my relationships.
Ooh, I love caviar. No, wait, that's caviar. Sorry.
Love with caviar. Well, that's it for this episode, folks. Thanks once again for listening to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, and if you have anything you'd like to share or a topic you'd like to hear us talk about on a future show, visit bangkokpodcast.com and leave a comment. Side note, I just realized today that the comments on our website had been turned off. So I went and turned them all on for every post. So now if you have a comment, you can actually leave a comment. So please head to bangkokpodcast.com and leave a comment there. Or you can tweet to us on Twitter. I am BKK Greg.
And I am Evo Terra. You can find me on Twitter at Evo Terra. Also, if you're in the mood for it, we haven't had a review on the Bangkok Podcast since 2013. I'm kind of curious. We're 9 episodes in, peeps. What do you think about the new format? Go to iTunes and leave us a review. Not that it'll help with anything, other than I just, like people say nice things about me. Hint, hint. But Greg and I will be back here next week with more of our lives shared from right here in Bangkok. Thank you very much. And once again, we'll see you next week right here on the Bangkok Podcast. Cheers. Well, sure. Why not? A late rim job or shot. One of the two.